again, everyone. Andrew here from the Legend of Zelda Hub. It's been a little while since we've had an episode of the podcast, but we are back, and boy, has a lot of things happened. Well, maybe not a lot of things, but at least one big thing has happened. We got a new Zelda game announced for the Switch, and a sequel to Hyrule Warriors. Age of Calamity is what they're calling this one. And it's coming out really, really soon, just in November, just a couple months away. Very keeping it very close, Nintendo this time. Been a lot of hype and a lot of speculation about what's going to be included in this sequel. Looks like it's going to be a prequel to Breath of the Wild, which kind of sets a new precedence for the Warriors games, at least with Zelda, as the last one was not exactly a timeline exclusive game. We're going to be talking more about that in a next episode. I plan on doing a huge kind of roundtable discussion with the other members of the Zelda Hub, and we'll go into depth detail. I kind of want the Friday presentation to be revealed first, where they go into more depth so we have more information to talk about. So look for that to pop up probably next week, late next week, Friday, maybe Saturday, somewhere around there. And looks like the Cadence of Hyrule physical edition is coming out next month. That will include all of the DLC that has been released so far. All the music tracks and everything that they've added. So, be sure to look for that on shelves starting October 30th, I think that's coming out. I'm sure my editor will correct me, as they normally do when I give all of the misinformation. So, let's get to this week. This week, once again, we have continued our series voice actors from Breath of the Wild. We've had Joe Hernandez on here. We've had Elizabeth Maxwell, Amelia Gotham, and Sean Shiplock. But this week we have someone else. Would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Hey, how are you doing, Andy? This is Jamie Mortellaro. I'm the voice of Prince Sidon and also the director of the English version of Breath of the Wild, and also the casting director. Nice to talk to you.
Oh, it's great to have you on board.
Oh, thank you.
We've had a lot of requests to have you on the podcast.
Oh, really? Oh, that's so nice. That's so nice.
Yeah, people is like, when are you going to interview Sidon? We want our fishman husbando.
That's so nice. People are so kind. They really are. It's less about my voice and about the character. He's so well written and he's so charming the way they designed him, and I'm just glad to be associated with him. You know what I mean? So
I can remember my first playthrough of Breath of the Wild, and I'm getting into the Zora region, and I come upon this character. He's like 9 feet tall, Zora Prince. My first impression, I hear the voice, I hear him talking, and I'm like, it's just like a Disney prince.
Yeah.
He's charming, friendly, positive. That was like the big thing that rubbed off on me. Positivity. Like, always giving Link encouragement. You can do it, Get the thumbs up in the air. I really like that. It's just because, we live in a society of not very much positivity, and then here's this guy.
It's true. It's funny you say that, because I was really attracted to that part of him too. And that's sort of how I am a bit, because I am a director primarily, and I'm always trying to, give actors encouragement and trying to make them understand, that everything's okay, that we're moving along, and you constantly have to really give encouragement and create a safe space. So when I was given that role, I was like, oh, this will be easy. This will be perfect for me. So I really love the way he was written and his style, and I love how the interactions with Link. It's just so charming. Love it.
Yeah, the interactions between Link and Sidon have been a major topic amongst Zelda fans for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm imagining that you've been to a couple cons in your time, or since this game is released, if I'm not correct.
Sure, I have.
So
for
I'm
sure.
pretty sure you're aware of how people, some people, not everybody, I'm not one of them, like to view Link and Sidon.
Yes, they have a close relationship. I've seen in some scenarios, but I think they're. I just think that it's just. I think that their relationship is just the way it's presented in the game is just absolutely brilliant. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, a lot of people
Yeah,
like to have a lot of fun with their ships and their stuff, but
yeah, yeah.
it's a kids game, so to kind of take it in
Right,
the most innocent type way. Here's this guy who
right.
the Zora have found to help them in their downfall. They lost their princess, and it won't stop
Yeah,
raining, and they're about the
yeah,
dam is about to flood, and
yeah.
you got to look at it like it's like Sidon is just glad to finally find someone who's willing to step away and help and make everything normal again, and at least to some extent.
It is as far as he can, and that's what I love. He's helping. The way they've written it is he's helping Link, but he's not doing the work for him. He's giving encouragement and setting him up for success. And I love that they did that because you could always say, well, why couldn't he do that? Why couldn't he help? He could help to an extent, and I think that was just brilliant.
And of course, he can do the SpongeBob SquarePants David Hasselhoff routine.
Exactly, exactly that.
I mean, what other character in gaming can do that?
Right? True, true, true. He's the Shark Man. He's a Shark Boy. He's
That
a
was
big
one of
boy.
the things that I was really impressed about the. I don't know what your extent of previous Zelda games has
Hmm.
gone, but before
Yeah.
Zora were pretty basic looking.
Yes.
Uh, you know, they really went into their design in a whole new way for this game.
Hmm.
You had Sidon who had like this shark head,
Yeah.
and some
Have
of
you
the
seen some of the
other.
cosplay? Some of the
Oh,
cosplay of Sidon? It's got to be
yes.
the most difficult one to create, and I've gotten some unbelievable photos from fans of Sidon, and oh my, it's stunning, stunning the work that's been done,
Yeah, both
and that it's
him
brilliant.
and Mifa. I
Yeah,
tell
yeah,
you what I'd
yeah.
like to see. I can't remember the character's name, but he
Mhm.
was like one of the elders, and he's the
Okay.
one that there's this part in the game where Link and the king and Sidon are trying to convince this elder to help Link get
Right.
shock arrows to take
Hmm.
down the divine beast.
Right.
And he had the head of a stingray. And he's kind of smaller than a lot of the Zoras too. He's a little short guy. I'd actually
Yeah,
like to
yeah.
see somebody cosplay that. I think that would be even harder to pull off.
Yeah, I mean, some of those, the way they're designed. I mean, these guys are geniuses. The way they, I say guys, men and women, the way they design these characters and wardrobe them. It's just unbelievable. I don't know how some of these cosplayers do it. I mean, they're artists, of course, in beyond their own right. They're artists, and how they assemble these things. I can barely draw a straight line, and I just have no idea how they design these things.
Super talented. We've had many of them
Yeah,
reach
yeah.
out to us over the years, and we've
Hmm.
featured many cosplayers, artists, painters,
Yeah, yeah,
drawers, and it's
yeah.
just like I have a lot of things that I'm into. Like I like Star Wars, Lord of the
Sure.
Rings,
Yeah, yeah,
Super Mario. There's a lot of interests that I have, but
yeah,
nothing produced more beautiful art to me than The Legend of Zelda.
yeah. It is stunning. I mean, that's what you could cruise through the Zora world and just just be spellbound by it. The sound design and everything they did for it is it's really brilliant, and it deserved the accolades it got.
Oh,
For the gameplay and everything.
the Breath of the Wild. I have played Zelda since 1985 when it
Hmm.
was new, when it first came out, and a lot of people my age like to say, "Oh, Link to the Past, that's the best Zelda game. It'll never be better."
Yeah, yeah,
And some will say, "Oh, it's Ocarina of Time." No, it changed video games, and it did.
yeah, yeah,
But Breath of the Wild just
yeah.
absolutely took me to another place.
Yeah, it's the benchmark. It is that transition of try to beat this. try to beat the brilliance of what Nintendo did. And I mean, I go way back with a lot of these games. I'm I was a I still do TV commercials, so that's where I started. I was originally a producer at a big advertising agency, Leo Burnett, and then I left there and I started directing TV commercials. So I directed the first N64 commercial with Mario,
Oh,
and that I couldn't even describe it to anybody. The idea that it's X, Y, Z, and you could go into the game, actually into it, and nobody they just understood side scroll and like yeah, they're like okay, yeah, no, I get it. He's going side to side, and then he crosses. I'm like no, he goes in. I couldn't even, there was no words to describe it. And I remember directing that. It was stunning. I also directed the first Game Boy Pocket commercials and the first Bomberman commercial. So way back with Mario, less background with Zelda, but more with Mario.
I remember a lot of those commercials.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
my teenage years watching those
Yeah.
N64 commercials. What was the old
Yeah.
catchphrase? Get in or get out.
Right. Right. Get in or get out. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
that, man. I still
Yeah.
have my very first N64. It was the very first thing I
Yeah.
ever bought with money that I made at a job.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was
That's awesome. I
working.
mean, that was a great transition time also, with games. That really changed everything. That N64.
Oh God, yes. It's like I grew up on Atari.
Hmm.
So basic.
Right, right.
It's just
Yeah.
you go and a lot of those games were just one screen, like
Hmm.
Asteroids. You're on one screen the whole time, and you're just moving around shooting blobs. And
Right,
then you
right,
move
right.
on to Nintendo, and then you got okay. Now you can move from left to right or from up and
Yeah.
down, and they're doing different things. There's lots of more colors, but still
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
basic. And then the Super Nintendo built on that, and then
Hmm.
here's the N64. It's like, oh, this is a whole new ball game now.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It
You
was.
know,
It's. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, no, go ahead. We're on a
Then
little delay.
I was just building up to the Switch, and you talked about Breath of the Wild being this big game
Mhm.
changer.
Yeah.
Now we're starting to see the results of that. You're starting to see these games that are open world. You're starting to see these games that are basically Breath of the Wild clones. I feel
Hmm.
like I have somebody sending me some message saying, "Hey, can you share this on the website or can you share this on social media?" It's exactly like Breath of the Wild, and I probably get one of these like at least 2 or 3 times a month now.
Really? Oh, that's interesting.
Lots of indie developers
Yeah,
just
very interesting.
building on that concept of this you're in this lonely world and
Hmm.
you start from scratch, you start with nothing, and then by the end of it you're so powerful.
Yeah, yeah. It's really like it takes its own, it takes on its own life when you play a game like this, and it's always so interesting when you're at the conventions and people come up to you. And there was a family that came up and started talking to me, and her son was about 18. He was autistic, and you could see that he's actually a really sweet guy. And talking to the mother, and she was telling him about that when he plays this game, that he will play it for 2, 3 hours at a time, and he's just immersed in it, the music and how beautiful it is, and it brings you to tears while they're telling you this. And she's saying thank you so much for making this game. Like, I didn't make it, I'm a small part of the whole picture, but she was just so kind and thankful, and it gives her family a little bit of time to themselves, and he enjoys it so much. So many people love that open world.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful and relaxing, and I really, you could just play in there for hours, just cruising around the wilderness.
That's what I love about Breath of the Wild. You don't even
Yeah,
have to go off and do the story and
yeah,
fight bad guys. One of my favorite things, like if I'm having a stressful day, and
yeah.
I'll do it to this day, I'll throw
Hmm.
in Breath of the Wild and I'll just I'll just randomly roam, collect mushrooms,
Hmm.
and pick up items and just look around.
Yeah, yeah.
And
That's great. It's great. It's
The
just discovery. It's like going on an adventure, you know.
the biggest thing about Breath of the Wild for me, this came out in 2016 or 2017. I'm sorry.
Mm.
2016, I had lost my mom.
I'm sorry. I'm so
She had
sorry.
passed away in March of that year,
So sorry, buddy.
and then January the following year, I lost my dad.
Ugh, I'm so sorry, my
So
friend. I
uh,
lost both my parents. I'm still mourning, you know.
there's still times I feel like picking up my phone and calling them. It feels
Of
like
course.
they're still here to me
Of
sometimes. And
course. I hear you. I hear you,
and
buddy.
then around that
Sympathize.
time, between the both of the deaths, I'd gotten sick. I'd
Mm.
gotten exposed to some kind of mold or something. Still not 100% sure what happened, and
Yeah.
developed a lung issue.
Oof.
It'll never fully go away, and
Mm.
I got to deal with that. And I was in the hospital for about 3.5 months.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and I had to deal with that. I had to
Ish.
actually, and where I was laid up in the hospital bed, I ended up with blood clots on top of that,
Mm. That's a
and
lot.
had to get rid of those. And then I had to go through physical therapy and learn how to walk all over again.
Right, right. Oh
And
man.
yeah, this is at like 35, 36 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
So I go through all of that in March of 2017.
Hmm.
A friend of mine bought me a Switch day one.
Yeah.
Actually, that's my editor.
Mm. Oh, nice.
Very good friend of mine, a
Right.
truly wonderful human being who is very
Sounds like it.
selfless. Got
Sounds
me
like it.
that and Breath of the Wild. And it's funny, I ended up also getting them Breath of the Wild because I ended
Hmm.
up with a free download code from Nintendo. They
Oh,
sent me
great.
one because we were promoting them heavily on the social media stuff, and I ended up giving
Nice.
it to her. So I'm like, here, turnabout's fair play, and
That's
that game got me through literally the lowest point in my life.
oh, my heart. That's just beautiful, my friend. I'm so sorry for your loss. And you know, I mean, it's amazing that you got through it. Your strength, you got through the hospital stay and your illness, and your parents were watching. They were watching over you.
Oh, definitely. I was still living. I'd taken care of them for several years when they were sick,
Yeah,
and I was still living in that house.
yeah.
And it's like every time you turn around, there's, hey, this is going to remind you of this.
Reminders.
And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was so
yeah.
depressed, and that game got me out
Ugh,
of it. And
that's so nice. It's a story that I will when I talk with Nintendo often. I will relay that story to them because that's stuff that they love that people love to hear.
Nintendo is a wonderful organization, aren't they?
they they are. I mean, I've been working with them for so many years, and I've directed a lot of other Nintendo games, and it's always a pleasure. They've always so buttoned up and so gracious, and they're just it's always a great place to be.
Oh yeah. Anytime that I've ever had, I've ever dealt with a Nintendo representative,
Yeah.
even back to the days when I was working at Kmart in the electronics section,
Hmm.
and the Nintendo rep would come in every quarter.
Hmm.
She was such a sweet lady. I loved her so much, and she knew like I was the Nintendo guy, and she remembered me every time she would bring me like stickers and
Oh, that's
little
great.
little collectibles and stuff that I still have.
Yeah.
I have a whole room in the
Right.
front room of my house as you come in.
Yeah.
Right directly in front is the game room, and
Right.
it's just full of Nintendo nostalgia.
That's beautiful. I love that. I love it. I mean, it's a trickle down, from management and all the people that I worked with, Ed Murray and everybody at the team back there. They're all very professional and they really know their stuff. But they're humans and they love what they do, and it's a trickle down throughout all the departments,
Did
and
you
so
ever
that
get to
doesn't
interact
surprise me.
with Reggie?
No, I did not. No, I did not. Although I've been around for so many years, you, there was no direct connection because there's so many other things going on, and there's people that, it heads a department, and then they have people that work for them. So there's no real reason in some ways. I would love to
Yeah.
have chatted with them, but there was no real reason at that point because they had all management controlling and making sure everything was right.
Living all the way here in little tiny Charleston, West Virginia, I'm not
Yeah,
the type of person. I don't get starstruck very easily.
right.
I used to work in a position where I met a lot of people,
Yeah.
I can't talk about too much of it
Hmm.
online here, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I met politicians, actors,
Hmm.
um, and I met I met pro wrestlers, baseball players, basketball players.
Sure.
Jennifer Garner, sweet girl. I loved her.
Hmm.
Kids are beautiful. Um, and I never got starstruck one time, but I used to tell one of my coworkers, I said, if there would ever be a chance, it's not going to happen because there's no reason outside of him coming here for vacation. If Reggie Fils-Aime ever came here and I got to meet him, I would be super fanboy mode.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
one, like, just, and I've, like I said, I've met, like, I met Jennifer Garner. I met, you're going to like this being from LA. I met Jerry West,
Sure. Sure.
and he's Charleston, West Virginia guy. He's royalty around here. I met
Yeah.
Randy
Right. Right.
Moss.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've met,
That's great.
and if he would have walked in there, I'd have been like, I would have bawled. It's like, thank you for everything you've ever done. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Yeah.
Nintendo has
That's
been,
great.
I can remember us getting our first NES.
Hmm.
My dad, my biological dad, my mom and dad had divorced at this point, and he knew I wanted one. And
Hmm.
the typical, oh, you're not going to get one. No, no, it's too much. It's too expensive. For my birthday this
Hmm.
year, I remember seeing him walk up. We had this little hill that came up into our backyard, and he was trying to
Music
sneak
swelled.
around. And I saw him walking up the little hill with the bag. I
Yeah.
could see it through the bag, and I'm just jumping up and down. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that was probably a wonderful moment for him too. He's probably just like watching his kid like lose their mind, for something like that. That's
Oh
just great.
yeah,
That's great.
I
Yeah, the
remember.
celebrity thing. I used to work for Oprah Winfrey all through college, and so I met a lot of people through there. And I always never really starstruck, but I always loved meeting people that are at the pinnacle of what they do,
Hmm.
and that was always a good time. And of course, living in LA, you meet a lot of different celebrities and people like that.
I got
So
to meet Oprah.
did you? Yeah.
They
Where'd you
came
meet her?
here. This was about 7, maybe 8 years ago.
Hmm.
Same job I just mentioned. They came down here as a follow up. Back in the 80s, they did an episode on, it was something about hate crimes against gay people.
Hmm.
And they were doing like a 20-year type follow up type episode or
Right.
something
Right.
like that.
Hmm.
And they came back here to interview the same people. It was something to do about like a boy in a pool. I
Uh-huh.
don't remember the details of this episode because
Yeah.
I never watched Oprah. My mom and dad did.
Right.
Um, but I met her and she absolutely was absolutely the best.
Yeah, I mean, whatever's written about her, how great she is, it's a tenth of what she really is like. She is very smart, very gracious, very thoughtful, and generous, and I mean, like I said, smart above all things. So really wise, and I every interaction I would have with her was always just real conversation. So
Right.
with all this brilliance that she had, she was just always just real, down to earth, conversational, and really warm hearted and sincere. So I have nothing but amazing memories working for the Oprah Winfrey Show.
Yeah, I'm like a nobody, and like she took the time and like stood there for
Yeah,
like several minutes and just talked to me, and it was like, wow,
yeah,
she's actually taking the time out for me. I should be doing that for
yeah,
her.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's great. That's great. That's typical. That's typical. Really.
Speaking of people like that, I worked at used to work at a movie theater
Hmm.
when I was really young, and it was one of my first jobs. Right before we're getting ready to close, we get a call. My manager does, and somebody rents out to see. God, I don't remember what the movie was. I want to think it was Star Wars Episode 3,
Hmm.
Revenge of the Sith. I think that's what it was. And somebody rented out for like 20 people, 20 plus.
Wow.
And we thought it's just like, oh, this is some local businessman or something like that, bringing his friends in. And manager instructed us. He said, when they come up and order something, don't don't have them pay separately. It's all going to be tallied up on one big bill, and they'll come and pay us for all the popcorn and stuff that they get. So at the end of it all, this man walks up. My manager's standing next to me and another employee. It's just the three of us there at this point. And cowboy boots, cowboy hat, pretty big guy. And I know instantly who it is because this guy is like my childhood hero. And he pays for everything. My manager is acting as nonchalantly as possible, and I'm trying not to cry. And he pulls out three $100 bills and tips us each.
Aw.
And he thanks us, really nice, goes back into the movie theater to finish watching his movie. And she's like, "Wow, that guy's really nice." I'm like, "That guy? Do you not know who that is?" She says, "I have no clue. I don't watch movies or listen to music." She kind of lived in a bubble. She was one of those kind of people. And I'm like, "That's Garth Brooks." And this is the height of his popularity.
What a great story. That's great.
Yeah, he was super. Like this guy, I worshipped him when I was little. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I was wearing those little cowboy hats and those type of shirts he'd wear. I was like, I'm gonna grow up to be just like this guy, but I can't sing worth a lick.
Yeah, I can't sing either. I've tried, but I can't do it. That's great. I've heard great things about Garth Brooks too. I've heard that's really a great story. Always good to hear.
So, as a kid, how did you get into video games? What was your first one?
It's funny. It was a lot of arcade style games. We're playing, of course, Pac-Man and all those kind of things, and then the early Atari stuff. And I got into games as far as playing or as far as working. What are you thinking?
Playing. Like, what got you
Playing.
into, like, what was the first step, so to speak?
Well, it all goes back to even old things like old really old style games like Breakout and
Oh
those
yeah,
those
now you're
really
talking
really
about my
cool.
prime.
Yeah, yeah. There was just you can't help but love that stuff. And those were Asteroid was another huge one for me when I was little.
Oh
Just
yeah.
just oh my, I spent so much money on Asteroid, and and Frogger was fun, and Centipede, and those were like the super early ones that I was
Oh yeah.
really into. And then then there was a time where I wasn't doing as much gaming, and then I started back in years and years and years later with like the Hitman series, and then I ended up directing Hitman for about 8 years, and I'm a writer on those also. So it was kind of an interesting turnaround, or interesting progression rather. But those are the ones that sort of influenced me and the things that I liked.
For years, I still have it too. Yahoo, my Yahoo email was
Hmm.
Hitman fan for a long, long time.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really loved working on that stuff. That was great. I loved it.
Uh,
Yeah.
did you play any Zelda games as a kid?
Not as much. It was more Mario. It was really a little more Mario.
Hmm.
And but I was a fan of it all, but you just have only so much time, and I was always going out and doing things like that.
Right.
And but I really liked a lot of the Mario, and all of them. And that's some of the stuff that I when I was first directing, I started working on a lot of those kind of things. So but I did appreciate, like, friends of mine worked on the Zelda commercials, and so it was always a part of my world, Windwalker and all those kind of things. And it was really always really interesting because it was part of Nintendo. So it was always a little part of it, but not as much as I was with Mario, you know.
Mario was probably. I've always considered Mario like the gateway game. Like
Yeah.
that's such a like I hear it so many from fans and other
Hmm.
people. It's like, oh yeah, my first game was Super Mario Brothers or Super Mario 64.
Yeah, yeah,
And look what
yeah.
just came out. We got the Super Mario collection on the Switch now. It's got the original 64 game. You got Super Mario
So good.
Sunshine from the GameCube, and
So great.
one of my personal favorites, Super Mario Galaxy with what's got to be the most gorgeous soundtrack on a video game I've ever heard in my entire life.
That's awesome. I mean, there's so many. I mean, things are being rebooted, and I just love it. Like I directed a Crystal Chronicles, Final Fantasy,
Yeah,
and that. So there's all these great titles that are being voiced now, and I just love it. And it looks so. I don't know if you've seen it. It looks so beautiful. So it's very exciting for that too.
now we've learned a lot about like how embargoes and stuff like that work for Nintendo, and we've had a lot of conversations with the people you work with in Breath of the Wild and their reactions and the unique ways they found out. Hey, my voice is going to be in a Zelda game. What? Because they go into this as we all have learned. They're recording this stuff not knowing that they're going to be in a Zelda game. I
Well,
remember.
they audition
Right.
not knowing.
Yeah, the audition.
Once
Yeah.
they're booked, then they know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I remember. I think it was Sean that said, "Oh, this has got to be like Dragon Quest or,
Yeah.
something like that."
It was
And
so fun to watch. He's so fun to watch.
Sean
He just
Chiplock.
so he's a gamer of gamers and just a professor of gaming history, and
He's so
he,
smart.
he's very smart. He's very smart
If
and ridiculously talented. You
we've
know.
plugged his Twitch channel here before, and I'm going to go ahead and do it again real quick.
Mhm.
Super Sonic Mega. I'll put the link in the description. I forget what he calls himself. Um, you go in and watch one of his streams. Like the other day, I was watching him play the original Hyrule Warriors, the
Mhm.
the Switch remaster of it, and just information. Like not only is he charming and fun to talk to, but he's
Mhm.
just sitting here and giving you information and like seriously, Nintendo should hire this guy to instruct people how to play their games.
Yeah,
He's that
he's a
smart.
great ambassador for gaming. He at the conventions, he the nuance of style and history of games that he knows. He's really an encyclopedia of it, and he's just so good on the stage. When you're on stage with him, he just you let him go, and it's so funny. He'll just go, "Oh wait, I've been talking too much." He'll be like, "Just go. Everybody loves it. Just go."
Oh
You
yeah,
know.
he's
And
got a
I'm the director. I'm the director of the game, so I always try to make my fan my my not my fan my talent, let them be the main focus, because they're you you're always trying to keep them, encourage them, and be their biggest cheerleader. So when I'm on anytime I'm doing panels with them, it's always like, let them take the lead, because they're like your children, you know.
yeah.
I'm such fans, and I love them so much that I want them to always be the stars. That's why I never even announced that I was Sidon for like over 2 months, until Bill said, people think that I did it and they're giving me credit for it. Then finally, I was like, okay, I got to say something, because I didn't want to steal any focus from
Right.
my actors, and in any way.
And
So
in a way, their successes and the way they interact with fans and have become like these, so popular. In a way, that speaks of you and then what you've been able to do.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. They're just so talented, and I'm grateful to be involved in any of it and all of it. But then Sean announced that I was in it, so that was very, very nice. But they're so good, they're so talented that then they're going to be doing so many other great projects. And I've worked with all of them on so many other great projects. But this is all something that we have, like this bond forever, all of us, and it's been great. We've had little rap parties, and I'm very close with all of them, and each one of them one's more talented than the next.
Yeah,
You know.
that we've like I said, we've worked with all of them, Elizabeth included. I don't think I
Yeah,
mentioned her earlier. She was
yeah,
the first one that we worked with. Such a
yeah.
classy lady, very
Yeah.
talented, good singer.
Oh yeah, she's
Um,
a dancer. I mean,
yeah,
she's an amazing dancer. Yeah, she's really the full package of talent. She could sing, dance, act. She could do all of it,
it
and
really what
all of
really
them.
bugs me is she seems to be the one, and I don't like to talk a lot about negative stuff on here, but this one kind of goes without saying. Being the titular character in a game,
Mm-hmm.
people are going to focus on you the most,
Hmm.
and that also means you're going to bring in the most criticism
Yeah,
because of what you're doing. But you're Princess Zelda. You're the titular character. You're the focal point here, and she gets so much criticism because
Patricia.
people,
Yeah.
yeah, people came. I think the reason being for that is people come into things with an expectation
Yeah.
of what their expectation is.
Sure. Sure.
It's like, the best thing I can compare it to is the sequel trilogy for Star Wars. I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. My house is half Nintendo, half Star Wars. Like seriously, I should make a video about my house one day. Literally, the whole thing is a giant nerd cave.
I've worked with Mark Hamill a couple times.
Oh man, I am very jealous of that. I love that man.
He's a great guy,
And
and
he's
he is just. I was worked on a project with him, and it was one of the client's birthdays. He's like, "Oh yeah, let me sing Happy Birthday," and he came in there, and we all sang Happy. He just is. Every day is as if it's like just the first day of him working. That's his excitement level and his enthusiasm and just kindness, because he doesn't have to be that way, and people will still worship him.
oh
But
gosh,
he
I
is
mean,
just gracious and kind and thoughtful.
if I got to be both Luke Skywalker and Joker, I would be the nicest human being ever too. Like seriously, you don't get a life better than that. Like just
That's true. That's true.
two of the
That's
most iconic. He's done. And people overlook that his voice acting work a lot. Just like
yeah.
everybody hears Mark Hamill, instantly they think, "Oh, it's Luke."
Right, right. Well, they're not animation fans, you know what I mean? They
Oh
don't know
God,
what he's done. His versatility in his voice acting
oh
is
yeah.
pretty amazing.
I felt like I heard recently he's going to actually get the voice Batman in something.
I don't know. I don't know.
I feel
I don't
like I
know. I
read
mean,
that
I
somewhere.
think that would be a nice fit.
That would be amazing because he's been the Joker and he's been a couple other characters in the Batman series too over the years.
Mhm.
Do you know who the original Joker was for the animated series?
No, I do not. I know it from the TV series, but not the animated series.
You can find a clip of this on YouTube. It was Tim Curry
Was it Tim Curry? And
for one
I've worked with
episode.
Tim a few times too.
And I'm going to tell you something, Jamie.
Yeah.
Uh, you might want to make sure you already went to the bathroom before hearing this, because I'm telling you what, that's a creepy freaking Joker right there.
Yeah.
It's
He is
just like
so talented.
Tim Curry scared me, and I'm not somebody who gets intimidated easily. But I remember
Yeah,
when I
yeah.
heard that clip, I'm like, oh my God. No wonder they
Yeah.
didn't keep him. Children would be frightened of this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. That's true. He's unbelievable. He's so talented and a really gracious guy. I was at the last convention I was at live. He was there. We talked for a while because we had worked together a few years before. And very very good guy and so talented, so versatile. And a lot of times, like we were talking before, Patricia, she's a singer, and uh, some of the best voice talents are trained singers, and he's obviously his music and his songs. So he's amazing. He's another one that's so versatile.
Oh, yeah, big fan. Of course, Rocky Horror Picture Show,
Yeah, yeah.
Home Alone. So many great movies over the years he's been
Even
in.
Muppets Treasure Island, he was great in.
Oh my
He
God, I
was.
haven't watched that one in a while.
Yeah, yeah. No, we talked about that. He's like, I told him, I said, I just saw the Muppet movie. He goes, oh, I was in a Muppet movie. I go, I know. He goes, I'm very proud of that work. I go, it was brilliant. Are you kidding? Everything you do is amazing. Everybody loves you. You know?
I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I like to ask all the others this, and I'm going to ask you as well. What is your reaction when you find out when whoever or whomever from Nintendo says, "Okay, we want you to work on a Zelda game"?
Mhm.
What's your reaction?
Well, at first we didn't know. There was a game coming up, and they said, "Are you available these dates?" And I said, I looked, and I said, "Yes," and I said, "Yes, I am." And they said, "Well, it's a Nintendo project, and we can't say what it is yet." I said, "Okay." And then it was a couple weeks later, we started locking in more dates. I said, "Could you tell me what this is yet?" So, because I've worked with Nintendo before. He goes, "Not yet, not yet." So then a little while later, they said, "Yeah, I can tell you now. It's Zelda." I'm like, "Oh, Zelda. I think I've heard of that." So I said, "Really? A fully voiced Zelda game?" And they said, "Yeah." I go, "Well, this is going to be very interesting to the public. This is going to be." They're like, "It's going to be something very. It's open world. It's this." I'm like, "Oh my!" well, this is going to be very interesting. So I was very excited, of course, when you first hear it. And, all these things start going through your mind. You start ticking off, like, what that's going to mean, what's been done before, and you just look forward to doing it.
I can remember when they announced, well, they made some, I can't remember if it was announced or if it was in a trailer, but when it was revealed to the world that Breath of the Wild was going to have full voice acting,
Yeah.
like that blew up all over the place. It's like, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa. It's like
Yeah.
before, the most voice acting you ever had in a proper Zelda game was Link going, "Hey, over here," and Navi going, "Hey, listen."
Right,
It's just
right.
such, little tiny things like that. And you had
Yeah.
a narrator in Hyrule Warriors. That was, also just basic things. But
Hmm.
no, this time it's the characters. They're all going to talk. They're going to
Hmm.
have these big cut scenes, and
Yeah, yeah,
it was once again split down the middle.
yeah,
Half
yeah.
were like, "Oh, this is probably let's not," because a lot of people bring up voice acting with Nintendo. It's not something they do a lot at all, really, in any of their IPs. But we
Hmm.
remember Super Mario Sunshine, and
Hmm.
I don't blame any of the voice actors for it. That was stupid. It was really stupidly presented.
Yeah.
Leslie Swan did the voice of Princess Peach, and everybody remembers, "I'm your mama," and it's like, oh god, are we going to get an "I'm your mama" moment? And then there's the other side, which I was kind of more leaning to, was like, finally, they have
Yeah.
taken a huge step forward here. Because I remember when Twilight Princess came out or not Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword came out, and it
Hmm.
was so cinematic.
Right,
It
right,
was
right.
like watching a movie while you played. It's the most,
Yeah,
to date, it's still the most cinematic Zelda game. And I
yeah.
said, if any Zelda game ever really could have benefited from voice acting, it was Skyward Sword.
I see.
Because it could have been a movie. It was that
Right,
good.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's brilliant stuff. And going back to what you were saying about Patricia, about people criticism of this, that,
Yeah.
I think she was perfect. I
Yes.
think she was exactly what that, and not just because I directed her and cast her. She's just perfect Zelda. There's that. It's a fine line. You don't know what people's expectations are,
Right.
and all you can do is go with, that sounds beautiful and that sounds vulnerable and confident. There's so much that goes on with that type of character, and the storyline with her, and because she sort of makes the really the greatest transformation of
Really?
any of the
Yeah.
characters.
Oh, yeah.
So you watch that transformation happen, and there's such subtleties going on, because can't really scream. She can't really um, get very angry. There's a line that she has to ride the whole time to keep it within this princess realm. And I thought her music is so melodic, and her voice is so melodic, and the way she speaks, and it's so gentle yet confident. I just think she was absolutely perfect. I couldn't imagine anybody else doing it,
Yeah, I
really.
thought I thought she nailed it. Like,
Yeah.
I took a we have a Facebook group, and I
Hmm.
got curious. I'm like, I want to know what people really think. I want to know what the naysayers really
Yeah.
have to say on this subject. So I did a post. It was like about a year and a half ago. It's like, okay, this is to all the people who are critical of this character's performance.
Hmm.
What exactly is it? And I think that people were taken aback because she was given a British accent,
Hmm.
which did surprise me when I first heard it, but I was pleasantly surprised because I really thought it
It's a
fit.
fantasy style accent. That's it's
Yeah,
you think of the Rings, Final Fantasy. They're not from England. It's a fantasy style accent,
yeah,
and that's
it's commonly used,
yeah.
and she it's a very different Zelda than all the other ones because Zelda in the past has either been one of two things: damsel in distress
Hmm.
that you got to go rescue in some form or another, or partner. And in this one,
Hmm.
she kind of takes on the role of both. It's like, yeah,
Hmm.
she's in trouble, she's trapped in Hyrule Castle, but she's also been fighting Ganon for like the last 100 years.
Right.
So she's not
Right.
exactly, just laying in a jail waiting for Link to come being her knight in shining armor. She's waiting for Link to come fight by her side. You know, and spoilers for anyone who hasn't beat Breath of the Wild, you can skip ahead a few moments here. She's the one that gives you the weapon to destroy him in the end. She's the one who, and then she's the one who seals him away. So without
Right.
Zelda, Ganon would just continue to be. She
Right. Right.
she
Right.
and she starts off this very conflicted story, and then by the end
Mhm.
of it, she's you covered it, you said it yourself. She's confident, she's assured. She knows who she is now. Very well written. She's just not cut and dry princess. She's
Right. But she's
actually,
vulnerable too, and that's
yeah.
tricky. That's tricky to create vulnerability along with that confidence.
I think she's
So
also the most relatable Zelda.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you think about things we deal with in life. We all have expectations that are pushed upon us, whether it be from our mom and dad, our spouses, partners,
Mm.
brothers, sisters, friends, managers,
Yeah.
bosses, co-workers, whomever. Everybody has that put upon them at points in their lives, and everybody has to deal with things in their own way. And that's what
Mm.
Zelda has to deal with. She's a princess. She has a huge expectation to find this ability within herself to protect her
Yes.
people, and
Right.
she's dealing with all this failure. Meanwhile, she's got Link following her around, who's been successful at literally everything he's ever done. He's the hero. He's got the
Mm.
Master Sword. He's the apple of everyone's eye.
Right.
Girls are crushing on him. Men want to be like him. He's awesome, and he's the antithesis of what she is, and
Yeah.
it drives her to try to become better. So in a way,
Mm.
Link makes Zelda a better person, and
Yeah.
she does that for Link too.
Right, right. The storylines are they're really well written and they're very thought out. And so when you read through these scripts, you see where they're going with these things, and you just go, "Oh, this is going to be great. People are going to love this." But there are you can't always please everybody, and you
Right.
hope to. And same the voice actors and as a director, you're always hoping to. You're going for the best you can be in the moments, and you try, but sometimes you can't please everybody, and to those I wish maybe the next time there'll be something that will be more approachable for them. That's all I could say.
Well, we got Hyrule Warriors 2 coming up, going to be
Hmm.
released in a couple months. I'm not going to ask you any questions on that because I know Nintendo embargoes. I know how they work. You can't really
Right,
answer anything for us. But
right.
in the trailer, we saw that some voice acting is going to be incorporated in this game, and we
Hmm.
see that this is going to be the second time. And I'm really anxious to see. I don't know who's going to be involved yet. We've got a video coming out this Friday. I think it is Thursday or Friday. I believe it's
Hmm.
Friday. They're going to reveal more about the game. Koei Tecmo is, not Nintendo.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't know what's going to be revealed or anything yet. We'll have to watch and see.
Hmm.
But I'm really anxious to see now that we've got the base, the foundation laid down for voice acting in Zelda. I'd like to see where that gets built from. What comes from that? Where does this grow? Um, you know, I personally would like to see this grow. A lot of people talk about a live action movie. I don't think Zelda works in that realm. I think Zelda works
Wow.
in animation. I want
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
see,
That would be something. Wow. That would be unbelievable. I
dude.
can't even imagine where they would go with that.
I've done a little bit of voice work in my life
Yeah.
here locally in West Virginia. I don't consider myself an actor or
Hmm.
anything, but if they come out with a
Yeah.
Legend of Zelda animated series, I'm auditioning immediately. I'm like, yeah, I got to do this. I would love to be a part of something like that
Yeah, it would
because
be a beautiful series. It would be an amazing, amazing, amazing thing. I mean, it's got the legs for it, so why not?
I mean they're going to be testing. I guess they say testing the waters with Super Mario Brothers. As we all know, that's the movie.
Hmm.
They're working on that. I'm sure Nintendo is got both eyes on that project. Because we got a Mario movie back in the '90s.
Yeah, yeah,
It was a
yeah.
live action movie,
I love
and you either really hate that movie or you really love to hate that movie.
it.
I watch it every now and then for laughs because it's
Yeah, right.
so awfully good to watch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, they
But
spent a lot of money in that movie, so there are
oh
things in it you go,
god,
oh, well, it's just kind of fun to watch, But I get it. I get it.
oh yeah, I don't know if they made a profit off that movie or not. I hope they did, but
Yeah.
good lord, the results were not that great. But this is the first animated Nintendo movie ever. We got Sonic, but that's Sega, so I guess that
Right.
you can also look at that. But
Mhm.
um,
Yeah. Well, it should be interesting. I mean, they've got the franchise, and I bet it could be. I bet it's going to be great.
I'm going to throw my 2 cents in. If Mario comes out, it's definitely I think it's definitely going to do well in theaters. Hopefully, we have theaters fully open by then.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, the Backstreet Boys concert. You're probably not going to get that joke. You ever watch Game Grumps?
No.
On YouTube, we cannot mention the quote unquote virus because
Uh,
they will demonetize. Um,
uh,
so they call it the never ending Backstreet Boys World Tour.
uh,
So yeah, hopefully we get theaters back because I
right.
predict if Super Mario Brothers does well and the critics love it and the people love it, I could totally see them pulling a Marvel Comics. And God, Nintendo has the resources for this. They have the IPs to do their own
Mhm.
cinematic universe.
Oh, for sure. Of course. That would be unbelievable. That would
Call
have legs for 20 years,
oh God, yeah, because you got Mario, you got Zelda, you got
Mm.
Xenoblade, you got
Yeah.
Kirby, on and
Yeah.
on and on and on. It's so many
All right.
different things that you got Metroid,
Right, right.
and
Right.
all of it's so different than the other. Nothing. That's one thing I've always loved about Nintendo. No two things are alike there.
Hmm. Hmm. They are very smart, and they've been doing it a long time, and they know exactly what they're doing. It's really an amazing company. They really are. Yeah.
There, I've always said that there's two companies in this world that give us so much good. And I know a lot of people like to make jokes about Disney and they're taking over the world, but when you're so damn good at everything, yeah,
Yeah.
you're probably going to take over the world. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. If you do everything right, you're gonna probably do well. So
yeah, like
very excited.
they own so much now. They bought Star Wars, they bought Marvel, and people look at this like, well, they're just buying up. You got to think about it. That's too when it comes to Marvel Comics. If Disney doesn't buy Marvel back in whatever year that was, I think it was
Mhm.
2002, maybe.
Mm.
I could be off a year. Um, Marvel Comics is going away. They were going to die.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
were not making any money. The '90s boom was over. Comics were just not being sold anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
when I was a
Yeah.
little kid, you could find comic books at the grocery store. You could
Oh yeah.
find them. You could go into
Drugstore. You just
yeah,
walk through and there's stacks of them. Yeah.
yeah. They're literally everywhere.
Yeah.
And then at this point, the craze had been over with for a while, and
Yeah. You have to go to specialty stores now to find comics.
you
Yeah.
either got to go to specialty stores or you got to go online.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they were dying out, and Marvel's movies were not exactly the best.
Yeah.
There were a lot of for every one good one, like say, Spider-Man was good. You'd have
Hmm.
a really bad one, like
Yeah.
it's just for like three bad ones that would follow that up, and
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
was working for them. And then Disney buys them, creates the cinematic universe, does all
Hmm.
this amazing animated stuff that they do, and
Yeah.
boom, Marvel is
Yeah.
Marvel's become like Coke. A lot of people when you
Yeah.
say, "Hey, what do you want to drink?" and you just say Coke, whether it's and it could be Pepsi, the being the product sold. Everybody just calls it
Yeah.
Coke. You get what I'm saying?
So funny. That's how I grew up. People say, you want some drink?" You say, "Yeah, a Coke. What kind? Root beer." People would say that all
Yeah, it's like
the time.
that's what
It was like the
Marvel is
Kleenex.
now, and
Yeah.
Nintendo. That's how Nintendo is. Everybody likes to make that joke of their mom saying, "Hey, go play Nintendo," but Mom, I'm playing PlayStation. That's how Nintendo is, though. It's like there's such a big,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's what everybody connects with
The
video
benchmark.
games. It's the
It's really
benchmark.
the benchmark. Yeah. 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 For sure.
Um,
For sure.
I want to get a couple fan questions in, if that's okay with you.
Sure. Of course.
First one comes from, hey, his name's Jamie too. He's from North Carolina though.
Oh, good guy.
He wants to know what was the very first video game you ever played?
The very first game I ever played was probably, I got to say, was probably Centipede. Centipede or, wait, maybe it was Pac-Man. It might have been Pac-Man. Might have a little been Pac-Man. Pretty sure, because that was just massive in all the arcades. So it probably was Pac-Man.
That was probably my first one too.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, thank you for the question. Love your name.
the next question comes from Melissa from
Melissa.
Boise, Idaho.
Hello, Melissa, Boise, Idaho.
Melissa wants to know uh, what kind of, she's kind of not, I'm not trying to insult, but this isn't worded the best, so I'm going to try to
Okay.
like make this sound a little better.
Sure,
She wants to know
sure.
when you are working with the other voice actors, when you're coaching them, what was like the biggest obstacle any of them ever had to overcome in that, learning the characters?
Well, because I direct them. Coaching is a little different thing, and maybe that's not what you meant, but coaching is sort of like before you go in a session, before you go to record, they might work with a coach thing that kind of develops them and sort of like their mentors. I direct them. So when they come to the booth, um, I think the challenge for all of them, and not just in this game, but any game, is finding the character. You might have the auditions come in, and you have to try to be so descriptive with my audition sides, like the descriptions and anything about them. So when they do send me something, they have so much information they're going to get pretty close. But when they come in for, they call it a callback, when they come in to actually perform for the client and myself, finding that character, finding that sweet spot. Where does this character's personality lie? Where are the nuances? Where are the subtleties? And really finding that. That's the tricky part. That's the most fun part. I mean, literally, it's to me, I love it because you're finding this voice that's going to propel this animated character and move people, emotionally, and you really focus on that, and that becomes the most difficult part because once you start as the character, as you start working through the script after the others, once you say, okay, this is the person we want, you book them. Then they come into the first session and you start recording with them. You have that in mind. You play back stuff that you had recorded in the callbacks. So we go, okay, let's get back into that character. So then when you start recording scene to scene, and you're not recording always in sequence, you're recording at different moments around the script. Sometimes a little later in the game, sometimes a little earlier in the story, and that's the same thing with movies. You record out of the timeline, out of sequence, and you start discovering a little more. So the character is sort of still being born a little bit because there might be something you do and then you do another scene and you go, oh, wait a minute, now we've really found this character. So you might end up going back to something you already recorded and just go, okay, now let's take that what we did there and bring that to this scene. And then that character develops and continues. So you pretty much do that with every game when it's a big character, especially a main character. And I think all except three of us were pretty much main characters in Breath of the Wild. So finding that character, really dialing into the emotions and the reality of that character, what makes sense and what's going to resonate is probably the most difficult part. But again, I say difficult. It's my favorite part. I love it. I love doing that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Next question comes from Carrie from Toronto,
Mhm.
Ontario.
Hello, Carrie from Toronto. I love Toronto. It's a great city.
She wants to know, should Nintendo ever give Link a voice?
I've heard people talk about that before, and in some ways, probably not. I think, but you just never know people's what they're going to think he should sound like, and I don't think you're going to even come close to pleasing everybody. So I think
Well, no.
in my humble opinion, what you imagine he might be is better than actually what you could produce because there's everybody's going to have their own interpretation. Like that's not what I thought he would sound like. Or it's like if you see, somebody in a model or somebody on TV or something, and you've never heard them speak, and they speak, and oh, I didn't think they would sound like that. Well, I think people are much more invested in someone like Link. You're talking decades of fans and in investment of time and money and just emotions playing these games. And I think Link is so iconic that voicing him, I can't even imagine you'd please everybody. I could be wrong. Maybe there's that one person out there that's going to please 95, 99% of the people. But I think it's cool too that he's not voiced.
Yeah. I always felt like in Breath of the Wild, I felt like they did a really good job of bringing his personality through the champions.
Yeah, yeah, right. True.
So where they're all four, so and Zelda, where all five of them are such different personalities. You got Zelda, and we talked about their interactions, but you got Rivali, right? Yeah, he's like this cocky, arrogant dude.
Yeah,
He's got this
yeah,
rivalry with Link. You got Daruk, who's like, hey, it's kind of like Link's big brother.
right.
Mifa, the love story, the emotion,
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
got who am I leaving out? Urbosa. She's like the motherly
right,
figure,
right.
and they all bring something different out of him.
Right.
And
Their
it's
reactions to him,
yeah,
acting is reacting. So their reactions to what he says and how they're approaching him and his personality. So you sort of get his personality through how they speak to him and how they react to him and his actions.
and it's very unique. There's not a lot of main characters in media that are like that. There's a few
Hmm.
that are
It's
the
like a
silent.
silent. It's like a silent movie. I'm a huge fan of silent movies, and if you
Oh
haven't
yeah,
seen a lot, watch them. And you could see that. You could see why they thought talking was just going to be a fad because the performances are so unbelievable. And I think Link's very much that way. He doesn't need to speak. He's got so much personality that he communicates without speaking.
if they ever do it, I want them to do it in a very nonchalant way, and I want
Mm.
it to be very brief. Like I was talking to one of my friends on Skype a few months ago about this very subject, and I said, I want the game to end with Link saying his first words, and I
Yeah.
want it to be something like, "Let's go make something to eat," something like that, something like kind of
Right.
funny that would fit
Yeah.
him because
Yeah.
food is like something he
Yeah.
really enjoys in the game.
Yeah.
It's like his
Yeah.
big thing. It makes him happy. So I'd
Yeah.
like to see it be something like something small like that. He done saved the world, and you're
Yeah.
expecting like this big dramatic, and you're
Yeah.
getting that from other characters. But then you get to Link, and it's like he kind of just looks off, and it's like, let's go make some food.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
love that. I would totally pop for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I've enjoyed my time here. Or thank you.
Yeah,
Just
something
something
just
simple.
something simple. Don't
Yeah. Yeah.
doesn't need to say a lot. Um,
No.
our
No.
last question comes from Kevin from. I can't read my own handwriting. I think that says Sacramento. If I'm
Hello,
wrong,
Kevin
I'm
from Musco,
sorry.
Sacramento.
Because he wants to know, on a level of 1 to 10, how adorable is Baby Sidon?
11, I think, possibly, Um, I mean, anytime you baby something, it just looks adorable. So he's just so cute. It's just, it's absolutely adorable. What can I say? He's adorable.
It's got the
And
biggest smile.
yeah. He's like the little bing in his teeth, I hope. And he's just really adorable. So, yeah, I mean, that's all I could say is like, I think an 11 of his adorability factor.
Speaking of the Baby Sidon, um, how hype were you to go back to work on Breath of the Wild again when they announced the DLC?
The DLC was exciting because I actually didn't work on that because I was on something else. So I knew that that was going to be coming, and I knew that I had worked with those actors and we found those voices. I knew they were going to be just fine. And we talked so much about it before and after, and so yeah, I was very excited for them that they did that. But I was on other things at the time.
So it was kind of like watching the kids grow up and go do their own thing at
Absolutely.
that point.
Absolutely, it was just great, and I'm still very close with them. When we all talk, we hang out sometimes, and we're all very very close. You go through I don't mean you go through not a war, but like a battle. You go through an adventure on these games, and everybody's games. There's time and money involved in these things, so you have a certain amount of time. You got to get these things done, and you work so hard on it, and you put every ounce of yourself into these moments and every moment, and you're just hoping that it's going to come out great, and you're doing you bring in everything you can to it. So you've been through a lot with everybody, and you're staring at each other through the glass, for hours and hours at a time, day after day, maybe weeks in between. But you create these bond and these relationships that are hard to really describe, because you can work next to a coworker all day long, but when you're performing and directing, you're looking at each other and you're talking to each other details all day long for hours and hours at a time, for weeks at a time. So you develop this friendship and this bond with everybody. So when they're doing anything else, I'm always a cheerleader. I'm the biggest cheerleader. Very, very Sidon-esque when it comes to that. I'm always a big cheerleader.
We definitely need a cheerleader for all of our hardworking men and women in our voice acting community.
Absolutely.
I'm glad that Zelda is finally part of that community because
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
always been a voice actor nerd. I love
yeah.
voice actors.
They are
I've
some of the
always
most.
wanted to be one myself. Like I said, I've done a little bit of like the
You can,
voiceover stuff.
you
I'm
can.
working
It's
on
it
it.
like I could recommend I do workshops in town, stuff like that, and I could always recommend the hardest acting in the world is voice acting, because you can't have a look. You can't
Yeah.
just stare at the camera and just have this communicate facial. You can't. It's all heart and soul, and it all has to come from your voice, and that takes practice. And to do it, it has to be a part of your day every day.
Yeah.
If you skip a couple days and you do it 3 or 4 times, it's not going to happen. It has to be every day, because you're also competing against people, of course, and those people are ninjas. Some of them don't even have headshots. All they do all day long. Either they're auditioning or they're in a session. So they're practicing that muscle all day long, every day. So you have to do it every day. It has to be a part of your life every day. And you get better and you get better. And it's a slow change. It's a slow change. But to do it, it has to be every day. If you don't do it every day, it can't happen. It will not, because the muscles that these other actors are building constantly, they're just going to outmuscle you. You know what I
It's
mean?
just like trying to be a baseball player. You look.
Yeah.
I had a baseball player in my family who played minor league baseball,
Oh,
and
great.
every day he was practicing whether he was, hitting off a tee or if he was, his dad was throwing pitches to him,
Hmm.
and he would run and just continuously work out and
Yeah.
stretch and every
Yeah.
single day, no off
Yeah.
days. That was like his
You
big
can't.
saying, no off days.
Yeah. You
And
can't. And that makes a lot more sense too with athletes, because you like just muscle and this and that. When you're talking about acting and voicing, it's not anything so as tangible, but it really is exactly the same thing.
yeah,
You have to do it every day. It has to be part of your life every single day. And there's no reason why you can't do it. You
there
just
was
have to work at it.
back in 2009, I got to do a voiceover for a commercial that aired here,
Uh,
and
oh, great.
I was so I was both like excited and scared to death.
Yeah, sure.
And the guy that I
Sure.
worked with, he was like, "Dude, your voice is." And people tell me this all the time. I don't see it, but people tell me, "Dude, you have such a soothing, calm voice
You
that makes
do.
people feel
You do. Yeah.
welcome." And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
to
Very
me,
interesting.
I sound like Southern boy, and just like, no,
Well,
that's everybody
that's
says
good.
that's yeah. Everybody tells me that's the charm. You're the one that's making us feel at home here, and that's what
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
told me. And I just once the camera or wasn't really a camera rolling, it was more of a recorder.
Yeah.
I just did it, and it
Yeah.
came out great, and it commercial
Oh,
aired for
good,
like a year
good.
and a half.
Congratulations. Oh,
It,
congratulations. It's great.
every time it came on TV, I wish I could find video of it online. It's like nowhere.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
there's probably like a tape of it somewhere in my mom's house.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I was so proud of that, and hopefully I can build from that.
That's awesome, buddy. Yeah, continue doing it. Yeah, no, it's awesome. Continue, just listen to other people online, and you could, follow other actors and hear what they do, and work from there. I think that's great, man. You just continue doing it. Don't stop.
That's
Don't
why
stop.
I do this. That's why I do like this podcast. I do
Yeah.
streaming, like Sean does. We mentioned
Hmm.
earlier, and that
Yeah.
helps. Being able to project your voice,
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
to people, keep
Right.
keep the
Keep that
cords
practice.
warm, so to speak.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Uh,
No, that's good. That's great. I mean, and all these actors do the same thing. And and a big shout out to Andy and Bill and Amelia and Elizabeth and Joe and Patricia and Sean and everybody at Nintendo. It was an amazing journey with all of them, and they do exactly what I've been talking to you about. They work at it all the time. They work at it all the time,
that's
and
great.
and they make my job easier too. The more professional, the more uh, tuned they are into their voice and their acting. It makes my job a bit easier. You know,
Yep.
so it's all good things.
Thank you for the
And a big
advice.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And before I forget, I want to give a big uh, the whole country and the world's going through so much right now, and just want to give my heartfelt thanks to everybody that is fans of the Nintendo and Breath of the Wild, and the small part I had to do with it. But to everybody, to be safe and to be kind, and to think of your neighbors,
Yeah.
and be close with your family, and this too shall pass. I believe in you. This too shall pass.
I think
So
this year it's been a wild ride for everybody, and
yeah,
being quarantined and everything
yeah,
that's happened,
very hard.
whether it's been nature or politics or
Yeah, yeah,
protests or whatever. I feel like as a collective, as a whole, the human race, when all of this is said and done, once quarantine is finally over and they've got a vaccine out for this thing, and
hmm
fires are under control,
yeah, yeah.
politics, that'll probably never be under control. Let's be
That'll never
honest.
be under control. That's for
They're
sure.
all crazy in the White House. Um, but once we get finally back to some things, I think we can all, you go back. And I can remember talking to my grandma, my great grandma, Granny is what I call her, and
Yeah,
she used to tell the stories of coming out of that the 1920s. What was it called? That
yeah.
that, that one that went around back then?
I think it was a Spanish flu or
Spanish flu.
influenza. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
I think,
yeah, it was something like that. I think we get where we're coming from.
which is great that we don't remember in some ways, because that means it was influenza. I believe which is the same thing I think as influenza, because it was taken care of in the hope that maybe this will be taken care of the same way.
Yeah,
You hope.
and she talked about how things, how she would tell us about how things would change and stuff. And I like to think that here we are, almost 100. Well, it is 100 years later,
Yeah,
and it's like history repeated itself.
yeah,
And I'd like to think at the end of this that we all come out stronger. We all come out more appreciative.
yeah,
I know
yeah.
I myself, I had just moved literally right after I'd just settled into this new place. All
Mhm.
of this started, and it just made me so much appreciative. I can't go to baseball games. I can't go
Right.
to the movie theater. I can't go see my
Nothing.
friends.
True.
I'm working from home 100%,
Yeah, yeah,
and it
yeah.
makes you appreciate things that you never ever would have thought affected you.
Yeah. I remember this Yeah, true. I mean, there's so many ways to think about that, Julie Nathanson, she's a great voice actor, and she used to, you try to have some levity. She goes, "I miss caring about things that don't matter," you
Yeah,
know, and it was like I thought that was just brilliant.
yeah,
A little levity and all this sadness, but you do appreciate things. You do appreciate the little things. Like once in a while, I'll have somebody come to the house where that I know they've been in quarantine. I've been in quarantine. And they'll come over and you have a drink or something, have something to eat, and you go, "Well, this was very nice. You had a visit." So
yeah,
that was very, it was the small things that you really appreciate, and hopefully, like I say, when people would come out of this, it's going to be, people will have a different way of thinking about things. Hopefully.
yeah. Hopefully,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember 4th of July was the first time I had went anywhere outside of like a grocery store
Hmm.
since March. I
Right,
went
right, right.
to a friend's house for a cookout and we let off fireworks and did the whole 4th of July thing.
Hmm.
I did not want that day to end.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
usually, like, you go somewhere and usually, like, after 3 or 4 hours, you're kind of ready to, like, be over it.
Right.
You're, like, kind of ready to go home and chill. And I was like, God, I don't want this to end. Because I
Yeah,
know I'm just going to go back home to the solitude. And it's
yeah, yeah,
like I
yeah,
miss
yeah.
doing this every day. It's like,
Of
you,
course, of course. Human nature,
yeah,
we want to be around people, socialize, and we're social creatures, and it's
yes,
very difficult. It's very difficult for everybody, but everybody does the right thing, and you hope that this vaccine that's coming out will be good, and everything will go back to what we consider normal.
fingers crossed, right?
Yeah, my friend. Yes, yes.
All right, Jamie. It's getting about to be that time here.
Well, thank you. It was my pleasure. It was a real pleasure talking to you.
Oh, I
And
have
and
had a
and
great
and
time chatting with you.
thank you. And my love to all the fans of everything that we've worked on and the small part I've had to do with it. And really, really, my heart goes out to everybody. And thank you. And stay safe, be well, and stay strong. I believe in you.
Thanks again, Jamie, and thank
Yeah.
you all for listening. We will have another episode of the Legend of Zelda Hub podcast coming out, like I said, late part of next week. We're going to talk about Hyrule Warriors 2. We're going to talk about what else they're going to reveal about the game this coming Friday, the Koei Tecmo presentation. And we hope you all will have listen and have a great time with that too. We're hoping to get some more of these wonderful, wonderful voice actors on our show soon enough, and maybe some more people from Nintendo as well. Um, Thanks again, everybody, and everyone. Have a blessed day. Have a great day.
Thank you.
And
Thank
thanks
you,
again,
buddy.
Jamie. You have a great
Yo,
day.
thank you. You too. Take care. Take care, Andy. See you soon.